Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from the 40 principles of the religion, 40 fundamentals, Al-Arba Usul Din, by Imam Al-Ghazali, rahmahullah, wa nafa'na bi'ulum fi ad-darain, ameen, ameen, ameen. And we have reached the third principle, which practically means 23, the 23rd principle at this stage. So we are more than halfway, alhamdulillah. It's about anger. Al-Ghadab. Know that anger is a flame taken from Allah's blazing fire that rises over the hearts. Whoever it overcomes has adopted the stock of Satan. For indeed he is a creature made of fire. Remember that when Satan refused to prostrate to Adam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, why didn't you prostrate for he whom I have created with my own hands? The response of Satan was, that you have created me from fire and you have created him from clay. And one might be able to say that this is the first instance of racism amongst the creatures. Had it happened, the first one, it's not between people, between human beings, but here we have Satan saying that the reason is his own origin, that he was created from fire. Breaking extreme anger is one of the most important matters of the religion. The Prophet ﷺ said, the fierce is not the one who can wrestle. The fierce is the one who controls himself when angered. And I would like to read the Arabic version, the original one. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس الشديد بالسرعة. This is why I wanted to read it, because I wanted to pronounce السرعة correctly, so that people would learn how to read it if they have the Arabic text. إنما الشديد الذي يملك نفسه عند الغضب ليس الشديد بالسرعة. الصرع, which is practically from the same root, صاد راعين, is epilepsy. Yes. So that one would not make a mistake in reading the word. So if you are really a macho, a manly man, a hero, whatever you would like to call yourself, the test is to control yourself when there's something that could trigger anger. He also said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a hadith that has a weak chain of narrators, but we would look at the meaning also. He also said, anger spoils faith, like aloe spoils honey. He also said that anger spoils everything, spoils life on earth and might endanger life in the hereafter. He also said no one has ever become angry except that he was on the brink of hell. ما غضب أحد قط إلا أشفى على جهنم. Almost there. The chain of narrators is also weak in this case. But anger is, because people in a moment of anger might really cross that line where it will end up non-believers. And I mentioned this before. It's been quite a few readings, and I have witnessed a young man and a young woman, and she was really she was trying to, in a very polite way, very subtle way, she was trying to bring it to his attention that that he probably was doing something wrong, and he moved quickly in an instance. She was not impolite. She was not really. He moved quickly to saying, not all. Practically, it's going to be in English something like this: not only I am the king, I am God. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. A moment of anger could really jeopardize everything. A man once said, O Messenger of Allah, what is the fiercest thing in existence? And the Prophet ﷺ replied, the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this man asked again, he asked, what will keep me away from the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The Prophet ﷺ replied, that you do not become angry. That's it. Do not become angry, and this will be repeated. Another man asked the Prophet ﷺ, suggest some practice to me, but make it simple. Make it simple, I would say, and short. وأقلل, like he would not be able to grasp a lengthy, he would not be able to grasp a lengthy statement, let's say, or rather that he would not be able to fulfill it if it's really something really complex. وأقلل from القلة, it's basically little. Okay, so he asked the Prophet ﷺ, suggest some practice to me, but make it simple. So the Prophet ﷺ said, do not become angry. The man asked again a number of times, and each time the Prophet ﷺ repeated, do not become angry. لا تغضب. لا تغضب. This hadith was narrated by Al-Bukhari. How can the sickness of anger not be grave, like not be grave, a grave sin, a grave matter, something very serious, when its outward manifestation entails violence, cursing, and insulting, while inwardly it entails hatred, envy, the harboring of ill will and profanity, the intention to expose another, or spread his secrets, joy at the suffering of the person with whom one is angry, the sadness when he is made happy. Each one of these filthy characteristics is destructive by itself. Yes. In breaking anger and containing it when agitated, you have to do two things to deal with anger. The first of them is breaking it by practice. By breaking it, I do not mean removing it, for its basis cannot be done away with, nor should it be. On the contrary, if it is done away with, it is an obligation to retrieve it once more, because it is the instrument of fighting disbelievers and preventing objectionable conduct, and the means to establishing such good or much good. It's like a hunter's dog. Its training is to be disciplined until it is directed by reason and the sacred law. Thus, it is provoked only when signaled by reason or the sacred law, and likewise abated. It never conflicts with them, just as the hunter's dog is under its master's direction, controlled. This is possible through preserving, or persevering rather, until you are habituated to patience and forbearance in the face of things that anger you. The second is controlling anger whenever provoked by containing it, and this is facilitated by knowledge and practice. And as for knowledge, it is for a person to know that there is no reason for his anger except except his refusal to accept that things happen according to Allah's will and not his own, which is ignorant to the extreme. It is also for a person to know that Allah's anger, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is greater than his anger. Yet Allah's grace is even greater. How many times has he disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and broken his commandments, the divine commandments, the law? So why should he become angry when someone opposes him? Does he think does he think that the conformity of his slave, family member, or associate to a family member or associate to his command is more binding than his conformity to Allah's command? It is most certainly not. As for knowledge, it is for a person to say, I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Satan, the accursed, for he knows that anger is from Satan. If it is not abated by that, then he sits down. If he was standing, or lies down. If he was sitting, as has been narrated. And I know of a Muslim scholar, a contemporary Muslim scholar. He's, he said in a statement that when his wife gets angry, he he moves he moves from A, because here we have A, you are standing, B, you are sitting, C, you lay down, but he moves from A to C without going through B, and he simply does from standing, he would be on the floor to make her laugh and to and this is a very prominent scholar. So he does not want to get angry. He does not want to correspond to match her anger or to. This is not a competition. And I spoke to a couple 2 days ago, a couple that really they had a serious uh, counseling, if you will. If I that's what I did, with that's uh, they cannot basically be angry with each other, scoring points. Each one is basically trying to match the other in evil doing, in profanity, in insulting each other, even hitting each other. It's just like told them, you're not. This is not, football like soccer. This is not volleyball. This is not basketball. You're not scoring points. That's basically what was their life. It's just like, why don't you compete in doing the good things, scoring points now in a positive way for each other, not against each other. Just everything is Bismillah. Everything, your life, going outside the house, returning home, food, the whatever is the issue between them. I'm not talking now about conflict, but it should be always Bismillah so that they could avoid conflict. Satan is very interested in making people miserable. So you seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, because changing one's position is effective in abating anger. I would say, like in a family situation, take a walk outside the house. Okay, leave here. Just separate a little bit and think twice, thrice, whatever it takes, before you utter a word that will leave really an injured soul, something that will continue to be there. And don't always, open all the books, bring the past, every single thing from the past to the present. If it is still not abated, then he should perform ablution. The Prophet ﷺ said, verily anger is from Satan, and Satan was creating from fire. Fire is put out by water. So if one of you is angry, he should perform ablution. And the chain of narrators is weak, but definitely is anger is not really the best trait, and it could be from Satan. And you go to make wudu, it's a ibadah, and it's cooling. I mean, even if the chain of narrator is weak, I think it's something that ought to help with Allah Azza wa, and it has been rendered weak by Imam Al-Nawawi. And there's the next hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, surely anger is a hot coal in the heart of the son of Adam. Do you not see the redness of his eyes and the bulging of the veins in his neck? Whoever senses anything of that within himself should put his cheek to the ground. And this is a hadith Hasan. Imam Al-Ghazali comments on this hadith by saying this is an allusion to placing the dearest part of the body on the lowest place in order to break one's pride, for it is without doubt the foremost cause of anger, so that a person may realize that he is nothing more than a humble slave for whom pride is not fitting. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, verily, through forbearance a man will attain the same level of reward as someone who stands in prayer at night and fasts during the day, and will be recorded as being of overwhelming might despite having control only over his household. Yes, this is the chain of narrators has been weakened. In fact, one of the narrators was Abdul Aziz bin Ubaidullah bin Hamza, is very weak. But yes, you could by controlling your by having patience, by having control, by having tolerance. It's it must be highly rewarded. Yes, and I think the second part of the hadith was not translated properly. I will just repeat so that I would mention exactly the problematic area. So verily, through forbearance, a man will attain the same level of reward as someone who stands in prayer at night and fasts during the day, and will be recorded as being of overwhelming might despite having control. Yes, it's not that bad of a translation, really. Overwhelming might, Jabbar. Yeah, it's not really might. It's not being Jabbar here. It's not about might. It could be abuse. It could be compared to someone who's very harsh on his household. In this case, it could be Jabbar, and like the Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. It was a fitna. The Egyptian basically fought with one of the people of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam from amongst the children of Israel in Egypt. And when Musa alayhi salam was still of course, Musa alayhi salam was raised in the house in the palace of the Pharaoh. Because the Pharaoh was at the time of the birth of Sayyidina Musa, they used to call the boys who were born at the time. It's a story that but when that fitna took place and the two fought with each other, Sayyidina Musa hit the Egyptian and killed him, not intentionally. He just simply wakazahu. He just hit him. It was a hit. Obviously, that because Sayyidina Musa he said that this is from the he attributed this to the shaitan. It's from Amal Shaitan. And the second time, next day, there was another fight, and the word Jabbar was mentioned in that context. So that's simply bringing something to the picture. And we have still two traditions to go. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever contains his fury, despite having the ability to unleash it, if he wanted, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fill his heart with security and faith on the day of resurrection. This hadith has been, we have different texts mutun for this hadith. One of them is about being rewarded on the day of judgment by the man will be told to look at the hur al-ain, those women that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have in the paradise for the men, but it becomes problematic immediately, so that he would choose from amongst them. But controlling anger is not only about men; it's also about women. So, what would be their reward? The way out might be to point out to the text that has been rendered Hasan, and the reward really is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fill his heart on the day of judgment. Imam Al-Ghazali says amnan wa imanan. Okay, so but the other text would talk about رضا, rather أمن and إيمان رضا. That's the Hasan, so that will be a way out. And the last hadith here, the Prophet ﷺ said, there is no act of concealment more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than for a slave to contain his ferry and swallow it down. Jur'a, tajarru. There is no slave that does so except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fills his heart with faith. Since we talk about غيظ يكظمها جرعة غيظ يكظمها عبد, we know that in the Quran there is a verse about كظم الغيظ, and the context speaks about the steps, the steps that one could take. So if there's something wrong that happens, and it would trigger anger usually, the first thing the Quran says, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. And it really begins, these three stages are attributes of those who are God-fearing, God-conscientious, al-muttaqin. For the whole verse is وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَّبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So what are the characteristics, the traits of the muttaqin? The first one, الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء, which could be on a different level, because it's followed immediately with the كاظمين والكاظمين الغيظ والعافية عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين. It could be that expenditure for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring about this كظم الغيظ, suppressing anger. So the Quran or the Sunnah does not say uproot, because that's Imam Al-Ghazali, what Imam Al-Ghazali just said. It is needed to, you needed to defend yourself, you need it, so you don't get rid of anger. Just have it there, like as if you are training a hunting dog. So it should be there. It simply says, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, suppress your anger, control it. Don't allow it to manifest itself. And the second one, وَالْعَافِيَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, you basically forgive. And the third level is وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who reach the level of ihsan, which is really a degree of beauty. In the hadith of Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, when he asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about ihsan, the Prophet replied sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. So the definition of ihsan is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if He sees you if you don't see Him. For if you don't see Him, He sees you. As if you see Him, for if you don't see Him, He sees you. And my story goes, not like my story, the story goes, someone that a Iraqi professor, an elderly professor, mashallah, وَزَكَى I keep mentioning the story because it's so beautiful. A double stroke motorcycle hit him, reared him from, hit him from the back of his car. All over the world, this is Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, at the time. We were both teaching at the International Islamic University in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. This is around between 1993 and 1995, around that period. And the first thing is وَالْكَاظِمِ الْغَيْظَ, That's of course given. وَالْعَافِيَ عَنْ النَّاسِ, he forgave him, so he did not ask him for his insurance. And the third part, which is really unique in this case, the third part, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, he realized, it is well known that the double stroke motorcycles, these are with pedals. You help moving ahead by pedaling as if this is a bicycle, and this is the transportation of poor people. And this Malaysian, his bike sustained some damage, and this would make a big negative impact on the welfare of this person, his family, his work, whatever. So this beloved professor, he gave him money to fix his motorcycle. So this is really the beauty of Islam, of Islamic teachings, of Islamic ethos, morality, and ethics. Ihsan is so beautiful. With this, inshallah, we conclude, and until tomorrow, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us during these difficult times. Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.